The massive space station called Nexus Prime hung in the darkness between stars like a glowing city. Ships from dozens of different worlds docked at its many ports every day. Today was special, though. For the first time in galactic history, humans were coming to join the big meeting of alien races. Captain Jake Morrison stepped off his ship and looked around the docking bay. The place was huge, with ceilings so high they seemed to disappear into shadows. Strange creatures moved about their business. Some walked on two legs like humans, others crawled on many legs, and a few seemed to float in the air. What made Jake different from every other being on the station was the large German Shepherd dog walking beside him. Rex had been Jake's companion for 5 years. The dog stayed close to his master's left side, his brown eyes alert and watching everything around them. Dr. Lisa Carter walked up to Jake. She was the team's expert on alien life forms. "Captain, are you sure bringing Rex was a good idea?" she asked quietly. "We don't know how the other species will react to him." Jake reached down and petted Rex's head. The dog looked up at him with complete trust. "Rex goes where I go, Lisa. He's part of my crew." As they walked through the station's main corridor, Jake noticed how other beings stopped to stare at them. Most seemed confused by the sight of the dog. A few pointed with whatever they used for hands. Jake heard strange sounds that might have been laughter. The first alien they met officially was Commander Vexstar from the Vorthak delegation. The Vorthak looked like large lizards that walked upright. They had sharp teeth and claws, and their skin was covered in tough scales. Vexstar was bigger than most, with scars across his face that showed he was a warrior. "So you are the humans we have heard about," Vexstar said in a deep, rough voice. His eyes looked down at Rex. "And what is this creature that follows you?" "This is Rex," Jake said with pride. "He's my dog. Dogs are companions to humans." Vexstar made a sound that was clearly laughter, but not the kind humans would find friendly. "You keep lesser animals as pets? How weak and foolish. A true warrior needs no such creatures." Before Jake could respond, another alien approached them. This one was completely different from the Vorthak. It looked like a giant insect with 6 legs and wings that sparkled in the station's lights. Its voice came from somewhere inside its body and sounded like many voices speaking at once. "I am Drone Prime Click of the Zephyrian Collective," the insect said. "We find your attachment to non-thinking creatures most strange. Why do you waste resources on something that cannot serve your hive?" Dr. Carter stepped forward. "Rex isn't a waste of resources. Dogs and humans have lived together for thousands of years. They help us hunt, protect our homes, and provide companionship." "Companionship?" Vexstar laughed again. "You need emotional support from animals? This proves humans are too weak to survive in the galaxy." More aliens had gathered to watch the strange humans and their animal. One of them was completely different from the others. It looked like it was made of living crystal, with light moving through its transparent body. This was Crystal Singer Harmonious from the Etherian people. "Your species forms bonds with creatures that cannot speak or think as you do," the crystal being said in a voice like musical notes. "This is most unusual. We Etherians connect only with those who can share our thoughts and songs." Jake felt his anger rising, but he kept his voice calm. "Rex may not speak like we do, but he's smart. He understands me better than most people ever will." As if to prove his point, Rex sat down next to Jake without being told. The dog's eyes never left his master's face, waiting for any sign of what Jake might need. "Look at how it obeys," Drone Prime Click said. "It is nothing more than a trained slave. We Zephyrians would never lower ourselves to such relationships." "He's not a slave," Jake said, his voice getting harder. "He's my friend, my family." This caused even more laughter from the aliens. The idea that humans would consider animals as family seemed to amuse them greatly. More alien species had arrived to see what the noise was about. Soon there was a crowd watching the humans and making jokes about their pet. Dr. Carter tried to explain, "In human culture, dogs are very important. They've been with us since we were living in caves. They helped us hunt mammoth and protected us from dangerous animals. Over time, they became part of our families. Primitive thinking, Vexstar said with disgust. The Vorthek conquered their homeworld by being strong, not by making friends with animals. But don't you see, Lisa continued, this relationship made both species stronger. Dogs became smarter and more loyal. Humans became better hunters and protectors. We evolved together. The aliens didn't seem convinced. To them, the idea of depending on another species for emotional support seemed like a weakness that would make humans easy to defeat. Rex, meanwhile, continued to stay calm despite all the attention. He had been trained since he was a puppy to be comfortable around strange situations. But Jake could see that his dog was paying attention to everything around them, especially the aliens who seemed threatening. A new alien joined the group. This one was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to change colors. It introduced itself as Ambassador Flux from the Chromatic Union. We have studied your species, humans. Your attachment to these dogs is mentioned in many of your historical records. We find it curious that a species capable of space travel still clings to such primitive relationships. There's nothing primitive about loyalty, Jake said firmly. Rex would die to protect me, and I would do the same for him. This statement caused the biggest reaction yet. The aliens looked at each other with expressions that clearly showed they thought humans were insane. You would risk your life for an animal? Vexstar asked in disbelief. Without question, Jake replied. The crowd of aliens began talking among themselves in their various languages. The sounds were strange and alien, but Jake could tell they were discussing what they had just heard. Most seemed to think humans were dangerously unstable. Dr. Carter decided to try a different approach. Perhaps we should show them what Rex can do. Rex, sit. The dog immediately sat, his tail wagging slightly. Rex, shake hands. Rex lifted his right paw and Lisa shook it gently. Rex, speak. The dog barked once, a sharp sound that made several aliens step back. You see, Lisa said to the crowd, he understands commands. He's been trained to help humans in many ways. Trained slaves are still slaves, Drone Prime Click said dismissively. The Zephyrian Collective needs no such help. We are perfect as we are. Jake knelt down and petted Rex's head. The dog leaned into his touch, clearly enjoying the attention. He's not trained to be a slave. He's trained to be a partner. A partner that cannot speak, cannot think, and cannot contribute to your civilization, Ambassador Flux said. We fail to see the benefit. The benefit is love, Jake said simply. Rex loves me and I love him. That makes us both stronger. The word love seemed to confuse the aliens even more. They talked among themselves again, clearly trying to understand what humans meant by loving an animal. Crystal Singer Harmonious spoke up. Love is an emotion. Emotions make beings weak and unpredictable. The Etherians focus on logic and harmony. Maybe that's why you'll never understand what makes humans strong, Jake said, standing up. Rex immediately stood with him, ready to follow wherever his master led. As they walked away from the crowd of aliens, Jake could hear them still talking about the strange humans and their pet. He knew they thought humans were weak and foolish, but Jake also knew they were wrong. They would learn the truth about the bond between humans and their dogs soon enough. Rex trotted beside his master, completely unaware that he had just become the most talked-about creature on Nexus Prime. To him, nothing had changed. He was still with Jake, and that was all that mattered. The stage was set for what would become one of the most important lessons in galactic history. The aliens had laughed at human pets, but they had no idea what they were about to learn. 3 weeks had passed since the humans arrived at Nexus Prime. The cultural exchange meetings happened every day, but they were not going well. The alien species still made jokes about humans and their pets. They thought humans were too soft to be real members of the Galactic Council. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his quarters, reading reports on his tablet. Rex lay on the floor next to his chair, sleeping peacefully. The dog's ears twitched every now and then, but he stayed relaxed. Jake had learned to read Rex's body language over the years. When his dog was calm, Jake knew everything was safe. Dr. Lisa Carter knocked on the door and entered. She looked worried. Jake, we have a problem. The trade talks about the Kepler system are getting worse. The Vorthak are being very aggressive about the mining rights. Jake looked up from his tablet. What kind of aggressive? They're making threats? Commander Vexstar said that humans don't deserve those mining rights because we're too weak to defend them. He thinks we'll just give up if they push hard enough. Rex opened his eyes and lifted his head. He could sense the tension in the room even though he didn't understand the words. The dog got up and moved closer to Jake's chair. The Vorthak are testing us, Jake said, reaching down to pet Rex. They want to see if we'll fight or run away. That's what I'm worried about, Lisa said. General Scarmouth arrived yesterday with a full military unit. They're not just here for talks anymore. Jake had heard about General Scarmouth. He was the most dangerous Vorthak warrior alive. His scales were darker than other Vorthak, and his claws were longer and sharper. The scars on his face told the story of 100 battles. Other aliens feared him, and even his own people were careful around him. What does General Scarmouth want? Jake asked. He wants to prove that humans are too weak to be in the Galactic Council. He thinks if he can make us back down from the mining rights, it will show everyone that we don't belong here. Rex stood up and pressed against Jake's leg. The dog could feel his master's stress and wanted to comfort him. Jake smiled and scratched behind Rex's ears. The simple touch made both of them feel better. We won't back down, Jake said firmly. Those mining rights are important for human colonies. We need those resources. But Jake, the Vorthak military unit has 20 soldiers. We only have a security team of 8 people. If this turns into a fight, then we'll fight, Jake said. That's what humans do when something important is at stake. Rex wagged his tail at the confident tone in his master's voice. The dog didn't understand politics or mining rights, but he knew that Jake was determined about something. That was enough for Rex. Later that day, Jake was walking through the station's main corridor with Rex beside him. They were heading to another meeting about the Kepler system. The talks had been going on for hours with no progress. The Vorthak wanted complete control of the mining operation. The humans wanted to share the work and the profits. As they walked, Jake noticed that the corridor was quieter than usual. Most of the alien traders and diplomats seemed to have disappeared. Only a few beings moved through the hallways, and they walked quickly with their heads down. Rex's ears perked up and he started walking slower. The dog's nose twitched as he smelled something that made him nervous. Jake had learned to trust Rex's instincts. When his dog was worried, there was usually a good reason. "What is it, boy?" Jake asked quietly. Rex stopped walking and looked ahead. His body became tense and ready. Jake followed his dog's gaze and saw what was wrong. 3 Vorthak soldiers stood at the end of the corridor, blocking the path to the meeting room. They were wearing full battle armor and carrying weapons. Jake recognized the soldier in the middle. It was General Scarmouth himself. The Vorthak general was even bigger than Jake had expected. His armor was black and covered with spikes. His weapon was a long staff that crackled with energy. "Captain Morrison," the General Scarmouth called out in his deep, threatening voice. "We need to talk." Jake kept walking forward with Rex at his side. He showed no fear, even though his heart was beating faster. "What do you want to talk about, General?" "The mining rights in the Kepler system. My people have decided that humans cannot have them. You will give up your claim and leave this matter to real warriors. The Galactic Council will decide who gets the mining rights," Jake said calmly. "Not you," General Scarmouth laughed, but it was not a friendly sound. "The Galactic Council does not understand strength. They let weak species like humans join because they feel sorry for you, but I know the truth. Humans are too soft to fight for what they want," Rex growled low in his throat. The dog could hear the threat in the alien's voice and see the aggressive posture of the soldiers. His fur started to stand up along his back. "Your pet does not like my words," General Scarmouth said with amusement. "Perhaps it is smarter than its master." "Rex is smart enough to know a bully when he sees one," Jake replied. The general's eyes narrowed with anger. "You dare call me a bully? I am a warrior of the Vorthak Empire. I have conquered worlds and destroyed armies. You are nothing but a soft human who needs an animal for protection." "I don't need protection from you," Jake said, his voice getting harder. "And neither does Rex." General Scarmouth stepped closer. His two soldiers moved with him, surrounding Jake and Rex. The corridor felt smaller now, with the three large Vorthek blocking any escape routes. "You will sign a document giving up all human claims to the Kepler system," the general said. "If you do not, there will be consequences." "What kind of consequences?" Jake asked. "The kind that show the galaxy what happens to species that pretend to be stronger than they are." Rex was now standing directly in front of Jake, his body tense and ready to fight. The dog's eyes were fixed on General Scarmouth, and his growl was getting louder. Jake could feel the tension in his companion and knew that Rex was preparing to defend him. "Your animal seems upset," one of the soldiers said. "Perhaps it needs to be removed from this conversation." "Rex stays with me," Jake said firmly. "Does he?" General Scarmouth smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "We shall see." The general made a hand signal to his soldiers. They raised their weapons and pointed them at Jake and Rex, the corridor filled with the humming sound of charging energy weapons. "Last chance, human. Sign the document and give up your claims, or we will show you what Vorthak strength really means." Jake looked at the weapons pointed at him and his dog. He thought about the human colonies that needed the resources from the Kepler system. He thought about all the people counting on him to stand strong. And he thought about Rex, who had never failed to stand by his side. "I won't sign anything," Jake said clearly. "The mining rights belong to humanity, and we will fight for them." General Scarmouth's smile grew wider. "Then you have chosen poorly." Rex pressed closer to Jake's leg, ready to spring into action at the first sign of danger. The dog's whole body was trembling with controlled energy. His loyalty to Jake was absolute, and he would fight to protect his master no matter what the odds. The three Vorthik soldiers moved closer, their weapons still pointed at the human and his dog. The corridor had become a trap, with no way out except through the armed aliens. "You know what I find most amusing about humans?" General Scarmouth said as he stepped within arm's reach of Jake. "You think that caring about things makes you strong. But caring just gives your enemies something to use against you." The general looked down at Rex, who was still growling and showing his teeth. "For example, you care about this animal. That makes you weak." "Caring about something doesn't make you weak," Jake said. "It makes you dangerous." "Dangerous?" The general laughed. "A human and his pet? I think not." General Scarmouth raised his weapon and pointed it directly at Rex. "Let me show you what real strength looks like." The energy weapon began to charge with a high-pitched whine. Jake could see the barrel glowing brighter as power built up inside it. In seconds the weapon would fire, and Rex would be hurt or killed. Time seemed to slow down as Jake realized what was about to happen. The aliens had pushed him to argue and make threats, but now they were going to hurt his dog. They thought attacking Rex would prove that humans were weak. They had no idea how wrong they were. "Don't," Jake said in a voice that was suddenly very quiet and very dangerous. "Don't point that thing at my dog." But General Scarmouth was already squeezing the trigger. The weapon fired with a bright flash of light and a crackling sound. The energy blast hit Rex in the chest, and the dog collapsed to the floor with a cry of pain. Everything changed in that moment. The corridor became very quiet except for the sound of Rex whimpering on the floor. Jake knelt down beside his dog, and when he looked up at the Vorthek soldiers, his eyes were different. General Scarmouth had made the biggest mistake of his life. He had hurt Jake's dog, and now he was about to learn what humans really do when you threaten something they love. The sound that came from Jake Morrison's throat was not human. It was something deeper, older, and more dangerous than any noise the aliens had ever heard. Rex lay on the cold floor, his breathing shallow and his eyes half closed. The energy blast had hit him hard, and he was badly hurt. Jake knelt beside his dog, his hands shaking as he touched Rex's fur. The dog was still alive, but Jake could see burn marks on his chest where the weapon had struck. Rex looked up at his master with confused, pain-filled eyes, not understanding why he was hurting. "Rex," Jake whispered, his voice breaking. "I am..." "Here, boy, I'm here." General Scarmouth watched with satisfaction. "Now you see what happens when you refuse to obey your betters. Perhaps next time you will be smarter." Jake's head turned slowly toward the Vorthik general. When the aliens saw his face, they took a step back. Something had changed in the human's expression. The diplomatic captain who had been trying to make peace was gone. What remained was something primal and terrifying. "You shot my dog, Jake?" said in a voice so quiet it was barely a whisper. "I removed a distraction," General Scarmouth replied, but his voice didn't sound as confident as before. "Now we can discuss the mining rights like civilized beings." Jake stood up slowly, never taking his eyes off the general. His movements were different now, more careful and controlled. The change was subtle, but the Vortex soldiers could sense it. They had seen enough battles to recognize when someone was preparing to fight. "Civilized," Jake repeated, still speaking in that dangerous whisper. "You think shooting an innocent animal is civilized?" "It is practical," the general said, raising his weapon again. "And if you do not sign that document, you will join your pet on the floor." Jake looked at the weapon pointed at him, then at the two soldiers flanking their general. 3 armed Vorthic warriors in full battle armor against 1 human with no weapons. The odds should have been impossible. "You made a mistake," Jake said, his voice getting even quieter. "What mistake?" General Scarmouth asked. "You hurt my dog." What happened next shocked the aliens more than anything they had ever seen. Jake didn't run or try to hide. He didn't call for help or try to negotiate. Instead, he attacked. The human moved faster than the Vorthek had thought possible. One moment, he was standing 10 feet away, and the next he was right in front of General Scarmouth. Jake's fist hit the general in the throat. With enough force to lift the massive alien off his feet, the general's weapon flew from his hands and clattered across the floor. He gasped for air, his eyes wide with shock. No one had ever hit him that hard before, especially not a human. Jake didn't stop. He grabbed the general's armor and used it to slam the alien against the wall. The impact made a sound like thunder, and cracks appeared in the metal panels behind the general's head. The 2 Vorthic soldiers tried to help their leader, but Jake was already moving. He spun around and kicked the first soldier in the chest, sending him flying backward. The soldier hit the opposite wall and slid to the floor, his armor dented and smoking. The second soldier managed to raise his weapon, but Jake was too fast. The human grabbed the barrel of the energy rifle and twisted it upward. The weapon fired, but the blast went harmlessly into the ceiling. Jake then brought his knee up into the soldier's stomach with enough force to lift the alien off the ground. General Scarmouth had recovered enough to attack again. He pulled out a curved knife and lunged at Jake, but the human was ready. He caught the general's wrist and twisted it sharply. The sound of breaking bone echoed through the corridor, and the knife fell to the floor. Jake wasn't done. He grabbed the general by the shoulders and threw him across the corridor. The massive Vorthak crashed into a support beam and fell to the ground. His armor was cracked, and blue blood was running from cuts on his face. The first soldier had gotten back to his feet and was reaching for his weapon. Jake saw the movement and reacted instantly. He picked up the general's knife and threw it with perfect accuracy. The blade stuck in the soldier's weapon, destroying it in a shower of sparks. Jake then charged at the soldier, tackling him to the ground. They rolled across the floor, but the human was stronger and faster. He pinned the soldier down and began hitting him with his fists. Each punch was delivered with the fury of someone protecting their family. The second soldier tried to help his friend, but Jake heard him coming. Without looking, the human kicked backward and caught the soldier in the knee. The alien screamed and fell down, his leg bent at an impossible angle. General Scarmouth was trying to get back up, but Jake was there in an instant. The human grabbed the general's helmet and ripped it off his head. Then he began hitting the alien's face with his bare hands. Each punch was harder than the last, and the general's blood splattered across the corridor walls. "You shot my dog," Jake said between punches. "You shot my dog?" The general tried to fight back, but his broken wrist made it impossible. Jake's fists were like hammers, and the alien's tough scales offered no protection. The general's face was becoming a bloody mess, and his eyes were swelling shut. The sound of running footsteps echoed through the corridor. Jake's crew had heard the noise and were coming to help. Lieutenant Ben Taylor was the first to arrive, followed by Sergeant Amy Rodriguez and 3 other humans. They stopped in shock when they saw the scene. Their captain was covered in blue alien blood, and 3 Vorthak soldiers were scattered around the corridor like broken toys. Jake was still hitting General Scarmuth, and it looked like he wasn't going to stop until the alien was dead. "Captain!" Ben shouted. "Captain, stop!" Jake didn't hear him. All his attention was focused on the alien who had hurt Rex. His fists kept falling, and the general's struggles were getting weaker. Ben and Amy grabbed Jake from behind and tried to pull him away from the general. But Jake was in a rage that made him incredibly strong. He threw them off and went back to hitting the alien. "He shot Rex," Jake said, his voice filled with fury. "He shot my dog." It took all 5 humans to finally pull Jake away from the general. Even then, he kept struggling to get back to the alien. His only thought was to make the creature pay for hurting his companion. "Where's Rex?" Amy asked, looking around the corridor. Jake stopped struggling and looked toward where his dog was lying. Rex was still on the floor, but his eyes were open and he was trying to lift his head. The sight of his injured dog brought Jake back to himself. He broke free from his crew and rushed to Rex's side. He knelt down and gently touched the dog's head. Rex's tail wagged weakly and he tried to lick Jake's hand. "I'm sorry, boy," Jake whispered. "I'm so sorry they hurt you." "Dr. Lisa." Carter arrived with her medical kit and immediately began examining Rex. "The burn is bad, but he'll live," she said. "I need to get him to the medical bay right away." Jake carefully picked up his dog, holding him like a baby. Rex was heavy, but Jake didn't seem to notice. All that mattered was getting his companion to safety. As they walked toward the medical bay, Jake looked back at the 3 Vorthak soldiers. General Scarmuth was unconscious and bleeding. The other 2 were groaning in pain but still alive. All 3 would need serious medical attention. "Captain," Ben said quietly, "what you just did, I've never seen anything like it." Jake didn't answer. He was looking down at Rex, who was breathing more easily now. The dog's eyes were focused on his master's face, and despite his pain, he seemed calm. As long as he was with Jake, everything would be okay. Word of the fight was already spreading through the station. Other aliens had heard the noise and seen the aftermath. They couldn't believe that one human had defeated 3 Vorthak warriors in hand-to-hand combat, but Jake didn't care what the aliens thought. He had done what he had to do to protect his dog, and he would do it again if anyone else tried to hurt Rex. The aliens had laughed at the bond between humans and their pets. They had thought it was a sign of weakness. Now they were beginning to understand that they had been very, very wrong. News of the fight spread through Nexus Prime like wildfire. Within hours, every alien on the station knew about the human captain who had defeated 3 Vorthak warriors with his bare hands. The story grew bigger with each telling, but the truth was shocking enough on its own. Captain Jake Morrison sat in the medical bay next to Rex's bed. The dog was sleeping peacefully now, his breathing steady and strong. Dr. Lisa Carter had worked for 3 hours to heal the energy burns on his chest. She said Rex would make a full recovery, but he needed rest. Jake hadn't left his dog's side since they brought him to the medical bay. He sat in a chair next to the bed, one hand resting on Rex's fur. The simple touch seemed to calm both of them. Jake's knuckles were still bloody from the fight, but he didn't care about his own injuries. The door to the medical bay opened, and Commander Vexstar walked in. The Vorthak diplomat looked nervous and kept his distance from Jake. His scales had turned a lighter color, which meant he was afraid. "Captain Morrison," Vexstar said carefully, "I come to speak with you about what happened." Jake looked up at the alien but didn't move from his chair. "What about it?" "The station security wants to know if you will press charges against General Scarmuth and his soldiers. They attacked you first, so you were defending yourself. Will Rex be safe?" Jake asked. "Yes," Vexstar said quickly. "No one will hurt your dog again. I promise this." Jake nodded and went back to watching Rex sleep. "Then I don't need to press charges. But if anyone else tries to hurt Rex, things will go very badly for them." The threat in Jake's voice made Vexstar step back toward the door. The Vorthak had always thought they were the strongest warriors in the galaxy, but seeing what Jake had done to 3 of their best soldiers had changed everything. "Captain," Vexstar said slowly, "I need to understand something. When you fought the general and his soldiers, you moved like a different person. You were faster and stronger than any human should be. How is this possible? Jake looked at the alien for a long moment. You hurt my dog. When someone hurts something I love, I become very dangerous. But why? Rex is just an animal. He cannot help you fight or make you stronger. Why does his pain make you so angry? Dr. Lisa Carter had been listening from across the room. She walked over to join the conversation. Commander Vexstar, may I explain something about humans and dogs? The Vorthik nodded, clearly wanting to understand. Dogs have been with humans for over 30,000 years, Lisa said. They helped us hunt when we were still living in caves. They protected our children when we slept. They warned us when enemies were coming. Over all those years, we became more than just two different species. We became family. Family, Vexstar repeated the word slowly. But Rex cannot think like a human. He cannot make plans or solve problems. He doesn't need to, Jake said without looking away from his dog. Rex loves me completely. He would die to protect me without thinking about it. And I feel the same way about him. This is what we don't understand, Vexstar said. How can you love something that cannot love you back in the same way? Rex opened his eyes at the sound of voices. When he saw Jake, his tail started wagging. Weakly, the dog tried to lift his head, but Jake gently pushed him back down. Rest, boy, Jake said softly. You need to get better. Rex looked up at his master with complete trust and love. Despite his pain, the dog seemed happy just to be near Jake. He closed his eyes again and went back to sleep, but his tail kept wagging slowly. Look at him, Lisa said to Vexstar. Rex doesn't understand politics or mining rights or galactic councils. All he knows is that Jake is his family. That's enough for him. Vexstar stared at the sleeping dog for a long time. And this simple love is what made you fight so hard? Yes, Jake said. When you shot Rex, you didn't just hurt an animal. You hurt my family. And humans will do anything to protect their families. The door opened again, and more aliens entered the medical bay. Crystal Singer Harmonious came first, followed by Drone Prime Click and Ambassador Flux. They all moved carefully, keeping their distance from Jake. We have come to understand what happened, Crystal Singer Harmonious said in her musical voice. The stories being told throughout the station seemed impossible, but the security cameras show that they are true. You defeated 3 trained Vorthak warriors in less than 5 minutes, Ambassador Flux said with amazement. Our experts have studied the video many times. Your speed and strength during the fight were far beyond normal human capabilities. I wasn't normal during that fight, Jake admitted. When someone threatens Rex, I become something else, something more dangerous. Drone Prime Click spoke in her multi-voice tone. The Zephyrian Collective has analyzed your behavior patterns. During normal times, your emotional readings are stable and peaceful. But when your dog was threatened, your brain chemistry changed completely. You became a perfect fighting machine. Adrenaline, Dr. Carter explained. When humans are protecting something they love, their bodies produce chemicals that make them stronger and faster. It's an old survival trait from when we had to fight dangerous predators. But why does this only happen when you are protecting others? Crystal Singer Harmonious asked. When the soldiers threatened you personally, you remained calm. It was only when they aimed at your dog that you changed. Jake thought about the question for a moment. Because my own life doesn't matter as much as Rex's life. I can handle being hurt or killed, but I can't handle watching someone hurt him. This statement shocked the aliens. They had never heard of a species that valued other lives more than their own. In their cultures, self-preservation was the most important instinct. This makes no logical sense, Ambassador Flux said. Your survival should be more important than the survival of a creature that cannot contribute to your society. Rex contributes more than you know, Jake said. He makes me happy when I'm sad. He keeps me company when I'm alone. He makes me a better person just by being loyal and loving. That's worth more than any technology or weapon. Commander Vexstar had been quiet for several minutes, thinking about everything he had heard. Finally he spoke. Captain Morrison, I owe you an apology. We Vorthak thought that your attachment to animals made you weak. We believed that caring about others was a flaw that would make humans easy to defeat. And now? Jake asked. Now I understand that we were completely wrong. Your love for your dog didn't make you weak. It made you the most dangerous fighter I have ever seen. Rex woke up again and tried to sit up. This time Jake helped him, supporting the dog's weight with his arm. Rex leaned against his master and looked around at all the aliens in the room. He wasn't afraid of them because Jake was there to protect him. Dr. Carter checked Rex's bandages and smiled. He's healing faster than I expected. Dogs are tough, and knowing that Jake is here is helping him get better. The bond works both ways, Drone Prime Click observed. The human's presence helps the dog heal, and the dog's recovery helps the human stay calm. That's what partnership means, Jake said, gently petting Rex's head. We take care of each other. The aliens looked at each other, beginning to understand something they had never considered before. The relationship between humans and dogs wasn't about one species controlling another. It was about mutual love and protection. Captain, Crystal Singer Harmonious said, we have been discussing the mining rights in the Kepler system. After seeing what happened today, the Galactic Council has decided that humans have proven their strength. You will be given equal partnership. In the mining operation, what about General Skarmoth? Jake asked. He is in the medical bay under guard, Commander Vexstar said. His injuries are serious, but he will live. The Vorthak government has sent a formal apology for his actions. They want to make sure there are no more conflicts with humans. Good, Jake said. Because if anyone else tries to hurt Rex, they'll get the same treatment the General got. The threat was clear, and all the aliens understood it. They had learned that humans were not weak or soft. They were a species capable of incredible violence when protecting the things they loved. Ambassador Flux approached the bed where Rex was resting. May I ask the dog a question? Jake looked surprised. You can try, but he won't understand most words. Rex, Ambassador Flux said clearly, do you love your master? Rex's tail started wagging faster, and he looked up at Jake with bright, happy eyes. Then he licked Jake's hand and pressed closer to him. The aliens all saw the simple, pure love in the dog's actions. There was no doubt or confusion in Rex's devotion. He loved Jake completely and without question. Now I understand, Ambassador, Flux said quietly. This is not about intelligence or usefulness. This is about something deeper than logic. It's about family, Jake said. And humans will fight to the death to protect their families. The aliens left the medical bay with a new understanding of humanity. They had come to mock what they saw as weakness, but they had discovered something much more powerful. They had found a species that could love so deeply that it made them willing to face any danger. Rex fell asleep again, his head resting on Jake's leg. The dog was completely peaceful, knowing that his master would keep him safe. And Jake sat there watching over him, ready to fight the entire galaxy if necessary to protect his best friend. The aliens had laughed at human pets. They wouldn't be laughing anymore. 6 months had passed since the incident on Kepler 442b. The galaxy was different now. The story of Rex and Dr. Turner had spread through every corner of the Federation. What started as mockery had become something else entirely. The Galactic Federation now faced its biggest threat yet. The Nexari Empire had begun attacking Federation outposts with ships that could turn invisible. Their cloaking technology was beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Entire fleets would appear from nowhere, destroy everything, and vanish again. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the Federation war room surrounded by frustrated alien commanders. General Vex, the Zephyrian who once mocked Rex, paced back and forth. His scales flickered with stress patterns. We have lost 12 outposts in 3 weeks, General Vex said. Our sensors cannot detect them until they are already firing. Ambassador Krex nodded grimly. Their technology is too advanced. We need a new approach. Captain Morrison cleared his throat. I have an idea. It might sound crazy, but hear me out. The room fell silent. Even Hive speaker Zach stopped her constant clicking. What if we use human-animal teams as early warning systems? Morrison continued. Dogs can sense things our machines cannot. They might detect these ships before our sensors do. The silence stretched longer, then General Vex spoke. You want to use pets to fight the most advanced military force in the galaxy? Not pets, Morrison said firmly. Partners, companions, Rex proved that on Kepler 442b, these animals are more than we gave them credit for. Prismatic Mind 7, the Vorton representative, hummed softly. The mathematical probability seems low. But then again, we said the same thing about the loyalty patterns we observed. 3 days later, Lieutenant Ben Cooper found himself aboard the Federation cruiser Starlight. With him was Ranger, his bloodhound. The dog was calm but alert, his nose constantly working as he took in the strange smells of the alien ship. The alien crew watched them with curiosity. Captain Nyses, a Mentari, approached carefully. Your companion seems very focused, she observed. Ranger has the best nose in the fleet, Cooper replied, scratching behind the dog's ears. He can track a scent through a rainstorm from miles away. And you believe this will help us detect cloaked ships? Cloaking technology still produces electromagnetic disturbances. They are very small, but they are there. If anyone can sense, then it is Ranger. The first patrol lasted 6 hours with no contact. Cooper walked the ship's corridors with Ranger, watching for any sign of alert behavior. The alien crew followed at a distance, unsure what to expect. On the second day, something changed. Ranger stopped suddenly in the middle of a corridor. His head lifted, nose twitching. The hair on his back stood up slightly. Contact, Cooper called into his communicator. Ranger is picking up something, the bridge responded immediately. Sensors show nothing, Lieutenant. Trust me, Cooper said. Ranger never lies. Captain Nyses ordered the ship to battle stations. The crew prepared for combat even though their instruments showed empty space. Minutes passed, then the ship's alarm screamed. Nexari ships decloaking directly ahead, the sensor officer reported. 3 vessels, heavy weapons. But this time, the Federation was ready. The ship's shields were up, weapons charged. The surprise attack became a fair fight. When the battle ended, 2 Nexari ships were destroyed and 1 was retreating, news of. The victory spread quickly through the Federation. Soon, more human-animal teams were requested for patrol duty. Maria Santos and Scout were assigned to ground operations, where Scout's hearing could detect approaching enemy troops through dense forest. A week later, Maria crouched in the undergrowth of a contested planet. Scout lay beside her, ears moving constantly. The border collie's entire body was focused on listening. The alien soldiers around them watched nervously. They had never seen anything like this before. Commander Zix, a Zephyrian, whispered, How can you be certain the animal understands the mission? Scout knows, Maria whispered back. He knows the difference between friendly and hostile movement patterns. Suddenly, Scout's ears snapped forward. He looked toward the eastern ridge and gave a single, quiet bark. Maria immediately activated her communicator. Enemy forces approaching from the east ridge, approximately 200 meters out, moving in formation. The alien commander wanted to question this, but the events on Kepler 442b had taught them to trust. The Federation troops moved to defensive positions just as Nexari. Ground forces came over the ridge. The battle was quick and decisive. The Federation forces were ready, positioned perfectly to counter the attack. What should have been a devastating ambush became a complete victory. Dr. Turner, now recovered from his injuries, worked with Rex at the Federation's main research facility. They were developing new ways to use human-animal partnerships in exploration and defense. Rex wore a special harness that translated his alerts into data the alien computers could understand. The bond between human and companion creates possibilities we never imagined, Dr. Turner explained to a group of alien scientists. It is not just about the animal's abilities. It is about trust, communication, and understanding that goes beyond words. One of the scientists, a young Vorton named Crystal Thought 9, asked, Can other species develop similar bonds? Maybe, Dr. Turner replied. But it would take time, patience, and a willingness to see these creatures as partners, not tools. The war against the Nexari Empire continued, but the tide had turned. Human-animal teams were deployed throughout the galaxy. Dogs detected cloaked ships and hidden weapons. Cats found enemy infiltrators by sensing their different body heat patterns. Birds spotted camouflage positions from above. The Nexari, who had relied on surprise and stealth, found themselves constantly discovered. Their invisible ships were detected before they could attack. Their secret bases were found by animals that could sense things their technology missed. In the final battle of the war, Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the Federation flagship. Rex was beside him, wearing his honorary military collar. The dog had become a symbol of the new alliance between humans and the galaxy. "All teams report ready," came the announcement. "Human-animal units are in position." The Nexari fleet appeared, trying one last desperate attack on the Federation capital. But they were met by a defense system unlike anything in galactic history. Dogs detected their approach from impossible distances. Birds tracked their movements through space. Cats sensed the electromagnetic signatures of their weapons. The battle was over quickly. The Nexari surrendered, their advantage of surprise completely gone. 6 months later, the Galactic Federation held a ceremony on Nexus Prime. Rex, now bearing scars from multiple battles, stood proudly beside Dr. Turner. The Great Hall was filled with representatives from every species in the galaxy. Ambassador Krex approached the podium. His voice carried clearly through the vast chamber. "We laughed at your pets because we could not understand a bond that transcends species, logic, and self-preservation. We saw weakness where there was strength. We saw simple animals where there were intelligent partners." He paused, looking directly at Rex. "These companions have taught us that loyalty, when freely given and returned, creates a force more powerful than any weapon. They have shown us that intelligence comes in many forms, and that the greatest strength is not in standing alone, but in standing together." The ceremony concluded with the official recognition of Earth's animals as companion sentients. It was a new classification that acknowledged their unique intelligence and the profound partnerships they formed with humans. As the ceremony ended, Rex and Dr. Turner walked together through the space station's gardens. Around them, other human-animal pairs worked with alien partners, exploring new worlds and building bridges between species. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. The bond between humans and their companions was not just about friendship or loyalty. It was about understanding, trust, and the power that comes when different species work together toward a common goal. Rex looked up at Dr. Turner and wagged his tail. The dog did not understand the politics or the ceremony, but he understood what mattered most. He was with his human, and his human was safe. That was enough. The stars stretched out before them, full of new worlds to explore and new friends to make. The galaxy was a bigger place now, full of possibilities that had been unimaginable just a year ago, all because they had learned to see companions where they once saw only pets.